For those of you who don't know, this is my friend Curtis Piper. He sits right over here with his family. Curtis is has been the pitcher of our two-time defending summer championship softball team. Yeah. And nobody can take the crown from us this year because the fields are still underwater. So we'll claim that championship too. In the spring, I started asking Curtis if he was ready to start playing softball this year. And he said, yeah, I haven't been feeling so well, so, let me get back to you. And in May, he came and shared some news with me. And we've been talking, I guess, pretty regularly since then. And so Curtis said, I'd like to talk to the congregation about what's going on. And so the two of us brainstormed on how best to do that. And it was more than just an announcement. We decided it should be a sermon. So that's why we're here today. So I'm going to start with just asking Curtis, how long have you been feeling kind of yucky, and where are we at today?
I started having stomach pain many months ago, around the first of the year. It never got better, so they removed my gallbladder, but I still had pain. They did more tests. And ultimately, they diagnosed what's called an adenocarcinoma in my pancreas on May 18th. And adenocarcinoma is a fancy word for cancer. And it's about, when they diagnosed it, at least, it's about the size of a golf ball. It had already grown to that point when they located it. Within 2 weeks, it had metastasized, as they say. For anybody who doesn't know what that means, it just had grown to and gone into other organs within 2 weeks. And the chemo that was then planned to ultimately cure me, if you will, give me a lot longer life, was changed to a chemo now that is just to try to extend life and give me some more quality of life over the next few months. Had 4 treatments so far. The doctors say that based on this chemo that I'm taking and the progression of the disease, I probably have till about Christmas, so we'll see.
And so, what was your initial reaction in May when you heard the doctors tell you the diagnosis?
I never thought I could feel such sadness, such shock. I guess for anybody who's lost a family member, you know how crushed you are. The realization in my case that there was just no hope for this because there's no possible cure, a lot of sadness. And Heidi and I, we cried for the first week. It was a tough time for us. And we were thinking in the meantime, what do you tell your kids? How do you tell them? What do you tell your family? What do you tell your friends? What do I tell the people at work? And when do I tell them all this? And probably spent a lot of that time blaming God first week, just wondering, why did you do this to me? What did I ever do wrong? Because like a lot of us, I thought I had led a good life. I thought I had a couple of bad moments here and there, I guess, but I thought I'd led a pretty good life, and I didn't know why this was happening to me.
So you said that lasted for about a week,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that week, it was clear to me that your outlook on life and your outlook on the disease changed, and I just wondered if you can share with us what changed.
Well, yeah, for my part, I just had to stop beating myself up, stop banging my head against the wall, so to speak, because it wasn't getting me anywhere. I was just emotionally more raw. I wasn't getting work done. And I just decided it was time to stop crying over what I can't do. So I started to focus on what I can do, which is live my life more intensely, more deeply each day. Try to be in a relationship with somebody, in person that is, try to have somebody over to the house or whatever, to come to know them better. And try to become more open, less judgmental, understand more and appreciate people more, if just for their differences and how unique each of them are in the world that we live in. It's tough to do in our regular lives, I think, because we've got so much going on. and we always figure we'll make friends, deeper friends with people later, with that person later. And also, none of us want to get, I mean, none of us, some of us don't want to get too close to somebody and show ourselves emotionally and drop that guard down for fear that we might reveal some weakness that we may have in ourselves. And so, a lot of times we never make connections with people in life. And but when you've got 6 months to live, if you decide that you're going to live it, then you need to drop the pretense, which is what I did. And it's been a wholly rewarding experience, and I've been very blessed, and I've had a lot of peace for it.
So if 40-year-old Curtis Piper was sitting next to you, recently married, young kids, everything going for you, what advice would you give him?
Get golf lessons. No, I thought about that question. It was a great question when you asked me to think on that. Crosby, Stills, and Nash did a song years ago called Teach Your Children Well. For any of you that haven't heard of it, it's basically talking about do good by your kids so that when they're going through the tough years, it'll be a little easier on you as a parent. And that's really true. For my part now, I just want to make sure that they know how to resource in life for answers to questions, especially since I won't be here anymore. And I've got some consolation thanks to the technology that we have nowadays. If you can't figure out how to lay linoleum, you can go to Google and YouTube, and you'll do all right. They'll replace what I can't do. Also, I'd say, in this case, I have already had married well, and I would just suggest to anybody that you don't rush into anything, that you make sure you got a good spouse, that they're smart, that they're challenging, that they're your equal, your best friend. And I look at my wife and I say, you know, I hit the home run there. She's been my best friend, and of course, over the last several weeks, she's been a big help to me. You know, as I've gone through my treatment and my care, she's been a lot of support.
You say teach your children well, and I am a firm believer that you have, but I know they're sitting right over there, and I wonder, what do you want for them?
I would first and foremost want them to stay humble. That's how they were raised, and that's how they are now. But to not let successes and things that happen in life that can get you puffed up, but not let that ego get in the way of still being able to understand people, places, and situations, you know, for what they really are. That they always appreciate their roots, their family. We watched some videos, I guess it was a week or two ago, some old family videos. Some of them, you know, were all old 8mm that were converted, showing grandparents and great-grandparents and cars, which I'm sure the kids had never seen before they were so old. And for me, and I hope for them, it was a great experience getting to know what their roots are. And that as adults, you know, they can better appreciate how they were raised. Of course, as you might expect, they don't think that I was the perfect parent. They found a lot of fault with how I've raised them, and I'm sure none of you all have gone through that. But you know, all I ask is that they do learn from the shortcomings that we had, and certainly we're not perfect, and we made mistakes. But that if they learn, that they use that to become better parents themselves, you know, and I challenge them to that when the time comes. And that they also learn how to become better friends to people and you know, appreciate their communities, become more active.
You say you want them to be better friends, and you certainly talk about in the past few weeks, few months, that you have relationships have become more important to you. Can you tell us how your outlook on relationships have changed?
Well, because I have less time left, there's no time for any pretenses, like I was trying to explain earlier. There's a lot more honesty, a lot more urgency in my relationships now with people. I I try not to let any barriers, anything somebody says to me or anything that I perceive get in my way of understanding who that person is. Because just because they do something different doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just their perception. And I've got my perception, and that's something that has been hard for me to learn in life, and I'm fighting that, you know, as I go into these last few months. Try to be understanding. At work, they've let me set my own schedule. I've asked that the folks at work only let the immediate management know what's going on with me. I work in an extremely large company. I have for nearly 15 years. And I've got literally hundreds of colleagues that I know. And so I've told them just the immediate management, because I can't afford 150 emails from colleagues all over the company on a daily basis. I couldn't get anything done. So that's the only facet, I guess, of relationships that I'll miss is not being able to explore those better. But for anyone who would care to know more about me or share with us, please don't hesitate to individually to give us a call. Give me a call. We have a Caring Bridge site. We would very much welcome your involvement. Look forward to hearing from you.
Do you have any regrets?
That I didn't travel more, that I didn't volunteer more, that I didn't pull the high school trombone from the case, and tried my hand over here with the symphony. But I guess maybe if it's not too late to run for church council, give that a go.
About a month late.
That's maybe travel some more.
What are you looking forward to for the rest of your time? How do you want to spend the rest of your time?
I'd like to make sure that the financial security for Heidi and the kids is lined out. Travel some, be close to my immediate family. Maybe take a long weekend with Heidi and the kids, schedules permit, to go somewhere and there again, be in a relationship with him. So
I think a lot of us are probably wondering, and you've mentioned it before, that at the beginning you kind of blamed God a little bit. Do you still blame God? Do you blame the doctors for taking 6 months or so to come up with what's your diagnosis?
No, I didn't. I don't anymore. It took me about 3 or 4 days to snap out of that. I know God is not a punishing God. I've known that all my life. I believe we punish ourselves a lot more than He punishes us on this earth. And I'm not fatalistic either. I think it's what Martin Luther said. I think we're saved by grace. And this is a good thing, knowing my past. God builds the stage set for us, if you will. And we're just as actors, except that we write our own play, we make our own plans, we chart our own course. We choose the roads that we go down. And of course we know life is what happens. We make all these choices. And this is what's happened to me. So there's nobody to blame. This is just life. We all live, we all die. The doctors, I don't blame them. They're trained to treat the most common symptoms and identify the most common causes and reasons to get you well. Otherwise, health care would cost 5 times what it already does. And pancreatic cancer is always hard to detect. In fact, the doctors were saying by its very nature, it could have been growing in my pancreas for literally years, and I wouldn't know about it. It's just not until it got big enough that it started affecting the organs, of course, for them to be able to finally rule it out. So I don't blame the doctors, I don't blame God. It's just life, and I'm trying to live it on my terms.
What is your outlook on God today? How do you perceive God?
As a practical matter, I believe He's working through the doctors and through the drugs to help me. I'm not going to have the temerity to say, you know, please give me another week or let the doctor do something special. God's got his plan for me, and I believe he's doing the best that he wants for me. And my outlook really hasn't changed that much otherwise. Like I said, I'm saved by grace. He's an all-knowing force for salvation. I think I've been a good person overall. He's going to save me, and I'll become part of his eternal kingdom.
Well, I personally want to thank you for our friendship over the years, and for the time we've spent together in my office and in your home, and the times we will spend together, and the night that we shared in the hospital, and when we were waiting for the baby to come, and you and Heidi and Brad and Andy were there with us, and it was, I think we were there till midnight that night. It was one of those nights where you didn't want it to end.
It was nice.
Yeah. But I really want to thank you for this gift today, of you coming and having the courage to sit here with me and share your story and share what's going on. More than just your story, what's going on the inside, what you're feeling and how your life has changed. And I think it's important to hear what he has to say today. Especially when he says, we all live and we all die. That is so very true. And if you've noticed on the front of your bulletin today, the cross we use on the front of your bulletin is the Ash Wednesday cross. It's the one we put on our bulletins for Ash Wednesday when we all come forward and get those ashes put on our forehead and are reminded that we all do die, and remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And we just don't know when. None of us can pick the date when that happens to us, and it's important to live each day to the fullest. And I think we can all learn from Curtis today, talking about how we can live each day to the fullest as being a better friend, and investing in relationships, and investing in people, and spending the time to go deeper with people, and understanding who they are, and just appreciating them for who they are, not judging them or not having pretense, just appreciating people for the time that we get to share with one another. Such a powerful testimony. And also, you mentioned how that brought you peace, and I know part of that peace within that you experience now is because you were willing to let go of blame. You were willing to say, I'm not going to blame anyone, I'm not going to blame God, I'm just going to live. And what a powerful testimony that is, to just let go of blame. I know that we have broken relationships in life, and we blame others for things, and rightfully so in many circumstances. But it's every problem in our life, it isn't someone else's fault, and kind of taking responsibility for that, and learning to live that way, and just because it just doesn't do any good for us. Walking around with blame on our shoulders doesn't help. And I think you've experienced how that letting go has brought you peace. And so if you want to keep updated on Curtis and what's going on with him, definitely encourage you to get on his Caring Bridge site. It's on Facebook, and we'll send it out in our next newsletter so that you can follow him on his Caring Bridge site. I assume we'll see him, but assume that he's going to be doing some traveling, and there's going to be days he's not feeling so well. So if you want to follow him on Caring Bridge, that'll be your most updates. But we're going to close with a word of prayer. Would you bow your heads with me? Lord God, I thank you for my friend Curtis. I thank you for the life that he has lived, for the people that he shared his life with, for his children, for his wife. And I pray that you would bless each day that he has left, whether it be 6 months or 60 years, that your love would pour out through him, that others would know how good you are because of his life. I pray that his relationships would be meaningful, intense, and deep. I pray that you would bless him as he journeys through this life, looking forward to the day when he can be called your child, where he can be called home to your everlasting kingdom. And I just pray that you do with us all, that you'd help us to learn from him, that you'd help us to take our relationships more seriously, and that you'd help us to live each day as if it were our last. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.